Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're going to get going in just a few moments. In the meantime, please do tell us where you're joining from. Tell us what you'd like to get out of today's session. To answer your first question, yes, the session's being recorded, or the radar sessions are being recorded. You will have access to see the recordings later on, should you wish to watch this over and over and over again until the next radar session. If you're going to post about this on social media, and I would encourage you to do that. Please use the hashtag DC Radar 2023. So anything you learn in this session that you want to share with others, please do go ahead with that. All right. I see some people saying where they're from. So we have Kelsey from Maine. We've got Lee joining from Pennsylvania. We've got Sandra from Berlin, Christian from Cambridgeshire in the United Kingdom. We've got Maxim from Minsk, Betty from Canada, Pedro from Montreal, another Canadian. We've got Pat from Calgary. We've got who else? We got Hao from Brazil, Mark from Nigeria, Abdullah from Saudi Arabia, Rob from Glasgow, and Esther from Newark in New Jersey. Oh, just down the road from me. Fantastic. So a lot of people joining from all over the world. It's really great to be part of this global session. I'm glad you could all make it. I know in some time zones it's getting pretty late for you. Well done for staying up for this session. All right. So I'm hoping most people have had a chance to sort of filter in from the previous sessions now. So I think let's just dive in and get started. Hi, everyone. You're almost at the end of this. This is the penultimate session for the day. We just got a closing speech after this. Anyway, I'm Richie. I'm going to be hosting this session. And hopefully, if you've joined this session, you're aware that making better use of data can have a pretty radical impact on your organization. However, just hiring some data professionals doesn't magically make that happen. So today we're going to talk about how to hire and build data teams so that they can have that high impact that you all want. So I'd like to introduce Vijay Yadav, who is the Director of Quantitative Sciences for Digital Data and Analytics at Merck, and Vanessa Gonzalez, the Senior Director of Data Science and Innovation at Business Solver. So both Vijay and Vanessa have pretty extensive experience in hiring data professionals and also building out data teams. So I'm very excited to hear their expert opinions. Now, we're going to start the session with my questions. So we're going to chit chat for about half an hour, but we'll also leave plenty of time for your questions in the audience. Please do make use of the Emmy Q&A feature. You don't need to wait until the end in order to ask questions, and we'll try and get through as many of your questions as we can at the end. So, hi, Vanessa and Vijay. Great to have you here. So I guess let's just start off finding out a bit about who you are and what you do. So, Vanessa, just to begin with, what does Business Solver do?
Hi, Richie. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. And Business Solver it's in a very interesting space. It's a software company, so it's a tech company, but it works in the HR industry. So we are benefits administrators. So we do software and administration of benefits. So think about these when you get hired by a company. Let's say that you work for Coca-Cola. You go in, and the first thing they tell you is you have to pick your benefits, and how are you gonna use them, and they tell you about your HSA and all these different options that you don't really know exactly what to do. Well, we help with that. We create the software, we create the chat box, we create that content for you to have a better experience and help these companies do that. So what Business Solver does. I lead the data science, machine learning engineering, BI, and linguistics team in Business Solver. And I have to say, I have the best job in the world. So lots of fun.
Fantastic. And Vijay, so I think Merck is a little bit higher profile, but just for anyone who's not heard of it, can you explain what Merck does and what you do at Merck?
Sure. Thank you, Richie, and thank you, audience, for joining. I'm so excited to be here. Merck has the name recognition. If you don't know, Merck is some of the products that are the very life saving. Merck is one of the top pharmaceutical company, and the in I guarantee you, one of your family members are you must have used the Merck product if this because Merck is big into vaccination space, vaccines and biologics. Some of the products for vaccine for MMR, for example, very popular one, HPV. Keytruda is immunotherapy oncology product. So quite a big presence. Is an international company, and I am heading a data science for Merck within manufacturing division, and happy to be here. And my experience is primarily applying artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science into improve the operational efficiency and bring some new cutting edge technology for the operations of any manufacturing company and in general other business functions.
Okay, brilliant. Well, glad to have you both here. So let's talk data teams. Now, I think just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, the idea of a data team is a little bit fuzzy sometimes because there are so many different roles involved. So, can you tell me, like, what does a data team consist of to you? Maybe Vanessa, do you want to go first?
Sure. So as you say, like data, it's very broad. So it has very different areas. So you have the teams that they're going to be using the data. There you have the teams that they're going to be governing that data, and you're going to have teams that they're going to be cleaning that data and organizing it and architect like how are we going to use the data in companies. Companies like ours and others, they have a ton of different of data. So you have to make sure that you have those pieces. So when we're talking data teams, I always think about depending on what area you are. When you're thinking about users, like in my case, that is more the machine learning AI analytics space, we're users of data. So we're not necessarily organizing the databases in like what I'm doing now. In the past, I have had teams that they're doing more the governance, the data quality as well. But what you're going to have to think about is that when you're using the data, you have to have a really deep knowledge, not just of the how to use it, but also of the data itself. You have to understand what's the architecture, what are the limitations, how where does it come from, how where does it go, what's the size, the quality of it, and then you can really work on it. So when you're thinking data teams, I think as a huge environment that you can specialize maybe in one area, but you have to be cognizant of everything that happens surrounding the data. So I don't know if that answers the question, Richie.
Yeah, so lots of different roles from sort of data cleaning to managing it and
Definitely.
then analyzing it and separate things like that. All right, so Vijay, I guess as a being part of a larger organization, do you have a different take on this, or how
No,
do you
I
think
think,
about data
yeah,
teams?
and Vanessa touched some up on that. So if we think about the data, right? So you start from a source. Somewhere data is basically generated, right? And it never dies. It's somewhere it is just moving, right? So think about from the source it starts and keep moving till it goes and is stored somewhere. And then after that, somebody using the data, enabling the data for decision making process. But the data teams are starting, how do we ingest right from the beginning from the source? You are basically transforming the data, and storing somewhere, then getting the insights out of that using some type of model. So data creations, ingestion, cleaning, and storing, and then using it. I think all the roles that you see in overall process from source till getting insights from that. I think anybody who's enabling all those functionality are enabling the insights. I think that's what the data teams are. Quite a number of roles. So we can talk a little bit more on that during the chat. But I think overall, I think anything between source and using making use of data, those are all the data teams.
All right, fantastic. I think like a lot of our audience, data camp tends to be data analysts, data scientists. It's important to remember that that's just like one section of a sort of broader data use case or workflow throughout the company. All right, so we've
Yeah.
covered what a data team is. Oh, sorry, go on.
Now I was going to say that just so you touched the point. So the people who are making the plumbing work for data is the data engineering portion, right? Then there's a data scientist, and then once they stored, you need to manage, you need to govern, you need to create the visualization. All those, data governance and visualization folks and machine learning people. So everybody is kind of playing the role from beginning to end to do that. So those are some of the roles that you just talked about.
Fantastic. And so we've figured out what a data team is, but we were going to talk about high impact data teams. And high impact sounds very cool, but it's a little bit abstract. So I was just hoping you could both provide some examples of what it means, like to have an impact as a data team. Maybe Vijay, do you want to go first this time?
Sure, absolutely. So the high impact data team. So at the end of the day, we have to really understand is that any work that is being done by data team, it is all about the business outcome. If whatever the work being done, if the work outcome is not giving a value in terms of either growth or improving the efficiency or cost savings, whatever the outcome is defined, right? So in high impact is how quickly you can give back value using the data. That is the criteria. Now, there could be cases whereby high impact, but it might take a lot of time, right? So high impact, depends on the corporation. What do we mean by high impact? Are we talking about millions of dollars? You have billions of dollars, what that number is, but it can vary. But the idea is that you want to, and data is still new, it's a complex landscape, right? And you want to drive the value quicker, the better. Now you want to go low hanging fruit, deliver the value quickly, whatever the data is available based on that. Majority of the cases, data is not available to make the high impact, right? So there are certain piece of work while you're delivering in the short term, leveraging the data, existing data, but then you're building your future with the new data assets for the high impact. So I would say low hanging fruit, go and deliver the result, show the value of data. In a bigger corporation, not everybody sees the value in the same way. But if a data team, a data leader can basically go and deliver the results, quicker, I think that's when you have your allies on your side. So depending upon how quickly we can deliver, I will go for that. But there's some foundational work that needs to be done as well, so we cannot ignore that piece as well. So do foundational work while you're putting the future, but deliver the results quickly and make the business impact possible.
All right. So really, the impact depends on like what your goals are and like, are you actually achieving the results you set out to achieve, and how quickly are you doing that?
That's right.
All right. Okay. So maybe let's go back to the start of like how you build out a data team. And I know Vanessa, since you sort of fairly recently moved to Business Solver, this is something you're kind of involved with. So what's the first step in building out a data team?
Yeah, so it really depends of what area of the business you're going to be doing. Like, if we're talking about a data team that is going to be bringing in the data, cleaning it up, preparing it for use, creating all those databases, are they going to be on cloud? Are they going to be on prem? Whatever you're doing, that's going to be one piece. But let's focus on the data science and the analytics team. So, like, to give us as an example of how you build it. I think something very important, as Vijay was saying, is that you're going to have to add value. So where are the opportunities for the company to add value on using the data? In some cases, it's getting insights from the data, and that would be like the business intelligence teams are great at it and visualizing that data. But in other cases, like machine learning, AI, you're going to try to automate processes, predict behavior, and in those and change behavior with it as well. So in those cases, it's going to be a little bit different. So what I think that is very, very important is that you have the skills you need to cover the whole process or the whole cycle. Like if we're talking data science, a data science cycle, that you're covering it all. If you need to be able just to if we go on the machine learning side, you need not just to create models, because if nobody uses those models, then you're like, you're going to fail. What you need is to create models with good data. If the data is not good, then you're not going to be able to get a good output from those models. So you need to have a good data, and have data engineering teams that they're going to help you with that, cleaning it up, getting it ready, moving it from point A to point B. Then you're going to need data scientists, computational linguists, depending what you're doing, machine learning engineers, that they're going to be creating models to use that data. Then you're going to need to be able to productionalize those models, get that result from your models somewhere for it to be used. So you're going to be having to, machine learning engineers are going to help you on that side. And then once you have like the output in a good place, then you're going to have to work with your IT teams, for example, to integrate it, let's say in Salesforce, or in be able to send an email with that information, or do that integration piece. So your data teams are going to depend a lot on your business and how you do business, but you're going to need to have all those different skills. You cannot have, when you're creating your data teams, it's not good to have 8 people that have the same skill and then one that has a different one. You need to find those skills that you need in different places. Now, the tricky part is that data teams and machine learning and BI, it's not very compartmentalized. You have people that do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So what I always think when I'm creating my teams is keeping it pretty open and see what are the strengths of the people that I have. Then when I hire for those other skills that I'm missing, but I make sure that I take advantage of the skills that I have in different teams. So a lot of times, like one example, my BI analytics and my BI engineering teams, they're separate, but they collaborate a ton. So it's a team sport. So in a soccer team, you don't have all goalies or all defense or all offense. You have to have a little bit of everything. That's how I see data teams. You need a little bit of everything for it to work well.
Okay, that's brilliant. I love the soccer team analogy. Yeah, a team of 11 goalies would not be wouldn't score very much, I'm sure.
Do it, but not great.
I mean, they got a good defense anyway. So I'm wondering, is there a natural order to hiring? So you suggested that you need to have some sort of data infrastructure in place, so maybe you hire the data engineers before the data scientists. I don't know, Vijay, do you want to comment on this? Like, what order do you go about building out the people in the
So
team?
I think one of the elements that we have to consider before we building a data team in a holistic way. So think about, there are any data leader in data organization, there are 4 pieces of work or 4 pillars that can be basically working on. Number 1 is development work, right? So whether you're developing a data product or developing a data pipeline, right? So there's one area that is to be done is a development work. The second one is research and development, R&D. This is the remit of the people who are basically working on the new ideas. Necessarily, they are not developing actual data product. They're thinking of something new, right? So that's the second element of that. The third element is operational support, right? So once the model goes into production, you need a group of people to basically support that as well. And the fifth is more like a consulting role, right? So you, as a data organization, you're providing consulting services within your organization to other teams or to other business. So if you take these 4 elements of the work, depending upon what is the remit of that data organization is, you want to be getting people in 4 buckets, right? Once we decide that, let's say 50% development, 25% R&D, 25% this, and maybe one area we are not doing anything. I'm just taking an example. For example, consulting, not everybody is doing. So once that allocation basically takes place, now let's understand the remit of the work that this data leader, data organization has. In order to enable, what are the different skill set in covering those 3 areas that you're focusing on: development work, R&D, and support. What do you need? What is the body of support basically needed? How much body you basically need to support? And you go back and look where you are in terms of what resources, skill set you have. What do you need for your remit? You take the delta and basically make a plan to either hire or recruit or develop the people to meet that need. I mean, that's the most organic way to really think about building the data team overall.
Okay, so it does seem like again we're going back to the idea of trying to fill out like different blocks of skills and make sure you've got a balance. I'm wondering what happens when you do find you have gaps. Have either of you used sort of upskilling or tried to fill in gaps by training existing employees? I don't know, Vanessa, you were nodding. Do you want to go first on this?
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's where like, for example, data camp is super useful. You're not going to find people that with the same experiences, with the same skills that you need. And also the other piece with data teams is that it's a super fast changing environment. Like, we're like 4 years ago, the needs of the skills we had they're very different than what we have today, and that we're going to have in 5 years. So we need to have our like, data teams used to be they're learning all the time. So it's sometimes when you have gaps, it's a lot easier just to get your own team to learn these new skills that you're missing than trying to find the skill. Like, you're not gonna you cannot have 300 people with skills, like each of them with one skill, because then can you imagine coordinating that? Even that would be crazy. So sometimes if you have a team that they are like heavier on the data science side, and you don't have a DevOps team, then maybe you start like your data scientists, they learn some DevOps skills to fill that gap. If you have a small team, you see it even more, that they have like you're going to have like a machine learning team that has data science skills, data engineering skills, because they need to know more to be able to get done what needs to get done. But yeah, that's something that I always focus in my teams. A lot of the time I always want them to have time in the week for development and for learning, because there's always going to be new things if they don't know them, or things that we did not need before that we need now, that we have to learn about. So that is something that it's very, very important for anybody that wants to work in data. I think that you have to be ready to be a long life learner. That is going to make you like a very good data person. If you're not there, then it's going to be a little harder. You're not going to be doing the same thing the same way for very long, I don't think.
Absolutely. I have to say, I quite often get questions from people saying, well, how long does it take to become a data scientist? I'm like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I still know like 1% of data science. There's always something new to learn. And so that was a really interesting opinion, like from the sort of startup point of view, where people do have to kind of shift roles and take on responsibilities for like maybe outside their area of expertise. I'm curious as to how it works in a larger organization. So Vijay, perhaps at Merck, I'm presuming you have like a sort of maybe a bigger like data academy style setup, or do you have any sort of official upskilling program?
Oh, we have very official upskilling program, and upskilling is a big here at Merck, and I think that's a really that's the very fundamental organic way to basically change the culture of the organization when you have the upskilling program. And as part of the skilling, that we have two formal programs. One is being more like a technical in a group settings, right? So whether it's R or Python, and by the way, Data Camp is a big at Merck. We're using Data Camp very heavily. We're using other platforms as well, and we have curated our own content basically for the training that we're conducting. One of the other element which is upskilling is mentorship, right? So there's a group setting that you can have weekly, and the way we run our workshop, we have weekly workshop every week, fixed time. People join the cohort, and you basically finish from beginning to end, and the new cohort basically begins around 8 weeks to 10 weeks time to get to that a different level, right? There's some fundamental, then there's some advanced, and they have a different track, right? Do that. I think the highest impact we found was a mentorship program, because that is one-on-one. And the way we do here is that we have mentors who are expert in certain area of data, whether somebody is coaching on Python and R, visualization, anything of that nature. And we have identified those volunteers, so people who are willing to give their time to coach, and they're the mentees who are interested into getting coached in certain areas. So we pair them up based on skill set block, the mentors and mentees, and you do that very effective one-on-one. Of course, scalability is kind of slow, right? You have a limited number of mentors and mentees, but I think having the workshop style, the adult learning is different. People who want their workplace are different than student learning when you're a class, right? So there's a hand holding element. I think what we found in upscaling is really really important. Having the workshop, live workshop, and cohort kind of scenario where they can work together. And data community within work is big, right? So we bring people together, and if you can make them interact with each other, they can find their organic and natural way to interact and mingle and ask the questions what they are learning. So right, so that's another way of upscaling when you're enabling through a data community. So those are some of the avenues and enablers here at Merck that we leverage in a big way.
So to add to what Vijay was saying, something that has been very helpful for us on the upscaling side is making sure that the projects are done by teams. Like we don't have like just one person working on something. I always try to have at least 2 or 3 people working on something, because then you have a more experienced person that it's helping the more junior people to learn. But at the same time, the ones that they are more junior, they come with newer skills from their education that they just got, like in those cases. So having that mix and working on the same things, I find that it's a very organic way of moving forward. And you have to use also some more formal ways of scaling, but I definitely find that getting people together and having that community and that culture of helping out and of helping others, that's what makes the difference to get there.
Yeah, and I can add on other element of that. So we hold hackathons on a very regular basis. Hackathons are the big way to really make people learn. And one of the element when I run the hackathon, when we make the teams, necessarily we are not hiring and putting people in those teams who are only data people. We bring people from the business side of it, put them in the team. Their job is necessarily they're not even contributing in any way. They're just being part of that team, just listening and seeing what is happening. That is a learning that you cannot teach other way. When they see things live without anybody teaching them anything, just listening to that, it has a huge impact that way. So upskilling is not necessarily you put someone in the room. I think building a community or something engagement, the way that you can engage them, I think that is another avenue for upscaling as well.
Fantastic. I was pleased to hear that both of you are big DataCamp users, but a lot of those ideas about like not just learning, but also having that community aspect where you're doing cohort learning, where you're having multiple people on teams together, that kind of social aspect from the hackathons, that just seemed really important in motivating people. All right. So related to that, I mean, there's always like tons of people who are like wanting to get their sort of first job in data. So I'm kind of curious when you have new hires or when you have someone transitioning from a different part of the business into data, how do you go about saying, okay, this person has good enough data skills to join my team? Yeah. Oh, Vijay, you go on that?
Yeah, sure. I think, and listen, that is always the question on the mind. One of the element for me is that when you talk, and we talk about the business value, business impact, right? One of the skills that I'm looking is the business acumen skill, right? You have to, if you cannot see how the company is making money, if you cannot see how the business process in that company is organized to deliver certain values is being there, I'm not necessarily looking pure technical, but I'm looking into that aspect. It's really really important, because it's very difficult to be not knowing what the business wants and how to even understand the business value, how company makes money, how the business process is connected to do that. I'm always looking that kind of skill set in that aspect. Take the broader view of the piece, right? And then of course comes the technical, right? So technical one, I think, curiosity and someone, how good somebody is willing to learn. I can guarantee you that, if you go and try to hire the super expert, either you be ready to give the right job, otherwise the guy is going to quit fairly soon. So if you're looking for someone you want to develop, then the one thing you want to be looking in paying attention is that the curiosity of that person. How are they asking the right questions, to the business. So the point I'm trying to make is that, technical skill is definitely there, but the business acumen is really super important, for me. And also, when you're developing a solution, you're developing a solution in a holistic way, not the narrow focused on a problem, right? Problem never happens in isolation. I'm looking for someone, can you see the problem beyond where it's happening? Can you connect your dot upstream or downstream, right? If somebody is causing the problem from upstream, downstream getting impacted. So if someone who has that view of that, I think, and if your data is skilled, you're going to make impact much, much faster. So that's some of the things that I'm basically looking into that.
That's brilliant. And Vanessa, do you have anything to add to that beyond the sort of the technical skills and the business skills?
Well, I would say that for me, it's super important, like the soft skills. So communication is a big one because we don't work in isolation. You have to work with a business to create products that they're really gonna be impactful and add value. I look at somebody that is very good at collaborating. I don't. I have a team that collaborates beautifully together, and that I'm always, when I'm hiring, I'm making sure that the new person coming in is going to be in that with that same attitude. I need someone that is willing to work in a team environment and not by themselves and not looking just for themselves. So those soft skills and being able to talk to others, care about others, collaboration, communication, to me are crucial. The technical skills. Oh, and the other one that's a big one is thought process. Also, like I'm looking when I'm hiring somebody new, I'm not just looking at what they have done because maybe they have not had a lot of experience, but I want to see signs of wanting to learn, wanting to be curious, as Vijay was saying, and be creative on your solutions. It might not be the right solution, but you have to think out of the box. So all those pieces are the ones that, to me, they make somebody very different and very successful. And Python, maybe you're not super strong in Python. You can get strong by using it, but you have to have that creativity of how you're going to use it to be impactful and solving problems. So those are the pieces that I always look for. Somebody that is willing to learn and good at getting feedback. That is very, very valuable because that's what's going to help these team members grow.
Brilliant. So we're going to go to audience questions in a few minutes' time. I think I've got time for maybe two or three more questions before we get to that. So one thing that seems to be an important thing when you're trying to get new skills, you can either train people, as we talked about, or you can hire new people. So I'm curious as to how you make the decision about, like, when do you hire, when do you just train existing staff? I know there's talk of like a recession. A lot of companies are cutting down on hiring. What's the sort of calculus you use for this? Vijay, do you want to go for this?
Yeah, so I think in my point of view, and that's how I do. Is I have a mix of resources. I do try to develop from inside the resources. There are people willing to come in. So and each side has its own plus and minuses. When I bring someone within the company, one thing they bring with them is the knowledge of the industry, the knowledge of the company, the business process knowledge, right? Technical skills can be taught. We can upskill it, train that. So there's a mix of people from inside. You develop them, you certain strength, they come in. Then you bring from outside the expertise that you don't have inside, right? Very simple. Any highly technical area that you want to bring, and there's a time crunch. There's no time for training, right? And experience of a piece that you basically bring. So I would say you balance between the two. inside and outside as well. And what I found is the people who are inside, most likely they're going to stay longer, right? Because they're willing to change, they want to take the career. While when you bring from outside, you're taking your chances, right? Whether that person fits into the culture or not, or things of that nature. So I'm always kind of giving a chance to the people who are internally to develop that. But I'm happy to go and fill some specialized skill that cannot be found inside the company.
Nice. All right. So next question. Once you've got the your high performing team, your high impact team, how do you make sure that you're keeping your staff happy and you're retaining them? Vanessa, do you want to take this?
Sure. So main thing, I think it's going to be culture. You have to have a culture about learning, developing, making their job fun. There are days, of course, and things that we do that it's not our favorite things to do, but keeping that balance of data teams in general, they're people that they want to learn and do and be impactful. So I try to always keep that in mind and making sure that they're not just working on what is needed at that moment, but letting them explore, develop. We are in an innovation team, so to innovate, you have to have that support of having the time and the resources to go there and do like hackathons, and have it as part of your culture of keep them doing that. So I would say that the main thing is keeping a good culture on your team, keeping that collaboration and communication between us, and really caring about your team, caring about the people. You get a whole person. You don't get just a skill or a tool. You're really getting a person. Trying to get to know my team, trying to get to help them grow, and get where they need to get to. Right? It's like I think that's what makes a team strong and make our job more fun too. Like we spend too many hours together doing things. We want to have a good time doing them as well. So I think for me, that's how I keep my team, and that's what I'm always hoping to do better and better. So they're fulfilled with what they're doing.
Yeah, it turns out that sort of caring about your staff actually works and makes them happy.
Actually works. It's not just something you say. You really have to do it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Vijay.
I was going to add, so think about why should somebody work for me? As simple as that. That's a question for me. Why should they work, for me? Every team member, if you think about their career growth, right? Are they learning? Am I going to give the manager, a leader, give them opportunity to grow and learn? If they can see that it is not only they're working on something, but they are growing, are they getting opportunity, right? So what I'm talking about is the ladder, right? So if somebody is joining in one role, can they see their next role and maybe next to next role? If that visibility is there and they understand that they have a future ahead, most likely they are going to stay around, right? And so it's very important that they have that visibility of their career. The second element, I would say that it's really important that they have a high engagement to be retained. If data scientist is not doing a data sciencey thing, you think how long the person is going to stay, right? So you want to be making sure that they are getting what they enjoy and what they have been hired for. If we as a leader, we hire someone for one task, you give them something else, basically it's not going to be happening, right? And I think the appreciation, the whole idea is, can they see the value of their work? Are they appreciated by the management, by the leaders? That's another element of that, for them to be engaged and be proactive and coming every day, happy to do that. So I would say those are some of the elements that I would keep in mind. And sometimes, money is not everything, right? Appreciation and inspiration and career growth, as they grow, of course the money would get better. So those are some of the elements that I'm looking into in order to retain the people. Mentorship for me is a big one. Are they getting growth out of that? So those are some of the elements that I really focus on.
Brilliant. So engaging work, feeling appreciated, career progression, all very important things. All right, so with that, we've got 5 minutes left for audience questions. I don't want to overrun. I got told off before. So let's move over and see who's asking questions. If you do have any questions for Vanessa and VJ, please do ask them now. And one quick reminder, again, if you are posting about this event on social media, please use the hashtag DCRadar2023. I look forward to reading through all your social media posts after the event. Brilliant. All right. So question comes from Chris. So Chris asks, organizationally, how much is inside the data team and how much is in the business or in IT? So so how do your data teams interact with the other teams? I don't know who wants to take this.
Yeah, I can take it. So I think the way the data has been emerging, and definitely it has been true at Merck as well, is that we have a data teams that are federated in nature. And that is organically, that is how majority of the organizations are doing, where data teams are federated, are embedded as part of the business unit, where locally they are helping, the value, getting the data value out of that, right? Same started with other, technology companies as well. As the organization basically mature, right, it becomes more data aware, the data value is basically realized. I would think that you can start centralizing it, right? What I have seen in some time, the teams are part of the business, sometimes it's part of the IT. I preferably, when I look for something where if it is part of the business, then one thing is sure, that there's a whole accountability setup, right? If you're part of the business, then you're definitely working, deliver the value, because you're directly working with the business. Both the models, whether you're part of the IT and whether part of the business, both have pros and cons. My personal choices would be being part of the business, because then you are going to be directly delivering the value for the business overall.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Next question comes from MD. So MD is asking, how can I make a project which is unique and has real world value? So yeah, I think this is particularly for people who are wanting to get into data. How can you show off your skills with something that feels realistic?
So I would say start with the data and with what you want to solve for. So think about a project or a problem that it's really that, like maybe you have the data to say what is the shape of the clouds and if they're going to look like a bunny, or, well, was that really impactful? Is it solving for anything? So think about what problem you're going to try to solve. Then you can see if you have that data available and what data you can use, and then you can see how you get there. So for me, it's all about adding value. You could be adding value for somebody just to pick a movie, like when you go to Netflix and are watching, or you can add value by helping a company to retain their clients. So depending what you're looking at, I would say pick something that is solving a problem, that it's really a problem, and be creative. Creativity is going to be what is going to get you there, and then there's many ways to solve a problem. You don't have to solve it in a specific structure way. There's always different ways, and that's what's going to make you more successful, I think.
Brilliant. And one thing to add to that, yesterday we had a session on creating a data science portfolio. If you're interested in this sort of thing and want to show off your skills, then please do check out the recording of yesterday's session. So yeah, it's one to look out for once the recordings become available. I think we've got time for one more question, and then I'll show you off to Martin. So Jurgen asks, how diversified are your data teams, and are there also different cultures included? How do you communicate with teams localized in different cultures? Either one of you, whoever wants to take that.
I can take that. So I can tell you that, we have a very diversified team, and I really focus on that. And Merck as a company, as a culture, is big and huge on that, right? So, data leaders are basically measured how diverse their teams are. So there's a whole metrics that is basically done. And I found is that having a different, again, culture, I don't have to explain, diversity brings a lot of values. Sometimes we don't say it, but it does bring a lot of value of different cultures piece to that. And being a multinational company within Merck, I mean, there's absolutely nowhere to escape, and we basically promote. And I've seen some really wonderful, ideas, the new thinking coming out of the diverse team. So very big on diversity point of view, not diversity in terms of demographic, but diversity in terms of thoughts and people from different background, right? We hired in some cases a chemical engineer with not much background in data science, but they bring a very practical experience, being in the chemical industry or in pharmaceutical manufacturing, big time, right? So diversity of thoughts, demographic, and other, country wise, region wise, I think all those elements are very valid. So to me, it's a big element of the hiring process.
And I would like to add to that, Richie. Definitely, for us in business all over, diversity it's forefront. So you have to be thoughtful about it when you are doing your search, and then thoughtful about it of how your team looks at certain moment and what do you think it would need. As Vijay was saying, it's not just diversity, just like getting people from different areas or countries. It's more about cultures, about culture, age, thought process, backgrounds. So having a mix of different people, it's going to make you a lot richer, and the ideas that they're going to come to pass and the ways about how to learn from each other, it's very impactful. So we're always thinking about that. We're a very diverse company, and we're looking to be even more in the future.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this is such an interesting topic. I'm sure we could have like a whole session just on like diversity in data. Maybe next Radar conference we'll do that. All right. So with that, thank you very much, Vijay. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Thank you to everyone who asked a question. Thank you to everyone who showed up. This has been like such an amazing conference. I'm going to send you off to the closing session now. Martin, our Chief Operating Officer, is speaking. He's closing up. I hope you've enjoyed the last 2 days. Please go and see Martin. Thank you once again, and goodbye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.